Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. And welcome to Dreamy, 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 Dreamy Dreamland. With your Sensie Owl Bob, me. Here it is about 2 o'clock. And I'm can't get anywhere. Um, my Jesus wagon died. And I checked the oil and water and seemed to be fine. But I went down the big hill, right? Down the big hill. It's about a 20-mile down big hill. It's going from the highlands and I live on one of the highest points in Tennessee. I'm about 4,800 feet up in the air. And I went down to about 900 feet, right? Big hill, right? And going down was no problem. And I went down there to take care of a few people who has no their churches. Nobody, not at all, helped them out. So I went down and helped them out. And then I went over to this young lad that I helped out, and his business was doing fine. And he kind of played around with my phone to make it work better, but it actually made it worse. When I got home, nothing worked except this guy. So I'm only down to one device. And so everything is like given to me as a gift from love's co-creation. So hey, I help those people be, um, so I don't have a car. So I can't go to the doctors. I can't have my hip replaced. I can't have a lot of stuff like that. But maybe I shouldn't, right? Maybe God has a plan and is going to heal my leg, right? I mean, he's doing pretty good with my diabetes. I just ate a Hostess Twinkie. No, cupcake. But I've been our church and our community center and the other two churches that I go to. You walk into their church into the vestibule, and there's walls and walls and walls, and walls and walls and walls of Bibles. Between all three churches and community centers, probably 5,000 Bibles. Anyway, about 2 months ago, every Thursday I show up to help and talk to people. I mean, that's what I do. When I see people, there are people who are kind of still stressed over the hurricane, and I talk to them. And because the ladies from the clipboards just, ooh, they're the other. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. So I talk to them and get them what they need. Get a bag and start putting stuff in it and walking them out to the thing, and we talk about Jesus, and I give them a Bible, right? Take it off. And so about 2 months ago, like July, around July 4th, No, you know when it was? It was whenever Donnie had his birthday party in D.C., the boring birthday party, right? Compared to what the Chinese put on, whoa, baby. That was great, the Chinese. Woo-wee. I mean, having all those people do the same step at the same time and go, ho, 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 I think it meant we love you, Xi, or whatever. Or it means Merry Christmas, I'm not quite sure. You have and love if you someday I'll give you love. Well, just saying that is giving me love. Thank you very much. Again, guys, put it in caps so I can really read it. I don't have my glasses. Hey, could I make... well, guys, I've been telling you this for years, I probably, if you go to where my show is, right, the Dreamy Dreamland with Sensie Owl Bob YouTube channel, right, and you go to, YouTube's, the videos, I must have 2,500 of them. And now there was back in the day, oh, you guys are actually writing stuff. Again, if you put it in, oh, good. There's somebody putting, hey, could I make an edit for you? Yes, right? And so what I want you to do, I want you to be my historian. Go through all of that stuff and put it on hard drive, put it on thumb drives, whatever. And just keep it. Because I think very soon the internet is going to go bye-bye, along with electricity. I think all of electricity and internet will go down because most of these countries can't stand having the internet. Social media is no longer just being able to watch the other people. The other people are communicating with their fellows and saying, let's go to the street. And I'm, when I was younger, man, I did that. But I did it as theater. Whenever you do whatever kind of politics you want to do, and you do it with theater. I mean, that's why, Yanni Yump is so successful, because he follows the, whatchamacallit, who was the propaganda boy of Adolf and National Socialists in Germany from 1925 till 1945. Not Goebbels, right? And he said, and he was just taking it from the Tavistock Institute, who said, you want your people to do what you want them to do. What you do is you tell them the same thing over and over. That's truth. 60% truth, 40% propaganda. And the propaganda is something like, we have to protect our blood and our dirt, and, stuff like that. Just dirt and blood, 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 blood and dirt and blood and dirt and blood. And people will get into it. Whatever you say, they'll do. Dirt and blood, dirt and blood, dirt and blood, and blood. And if you didn't notice, I was dropping into I don't know what you call that. German? No. Yiddish? No. Fascist speak? Maybe. Who knows? There's a really good TV show about the Italian El Duce, and it's kind of it's done like a historical documentary, but it's like a stand-up anyway. Can you need my chat? Cause I love your stand. Do more. So anyone who wants to talk to me, mano y mano, get a hold of me at the dudeawake42 at Gmail. Dudeawake42 at Gmail. Then we can talk about stuff, and we're not live on internet. It's just mano y mano. But I mean, the mano y mano plus the NSA and Palantir and Peter Thiel. Oh, that guy he's like a bad James Bond villain. Did you ever see him? He was being interviewed by some real right-wing, guy, and he doesn't do the media. He doesn't do the main media, not even Fox. But he had this guy who's kind of off the hook. And anyway, so we're talking, and he goes, I believe in, now the guy says, do you think all humans deserve to live? Do they deserve to have rights? And he goes, no. And the guy says, so is it rights or that? He said, no, they shouldn't live. We should really just have the most important technocrats like me. He's no technocrat. But or like Elon Musk. And Elon definitely is, Neon Husk is no. So I have to think of a good name for Peter T. Let's see. Peter. Eater. Yes. Eater. Eater Ilk. That's it. Eater Ilk and Neon Husk and the Orange Turd and, Toto. No. That would be besmirching a icon. Tit. Just like the plane, boys, the plane. Tit, right? That's the Orange Turd's, slave. Tit, right? And then there's little Arco, new subscriber. Hey, Fearless Seats, yeah, subscribe. Thank you. More subscribers. Let's get some more. And so anyway. This guy who just got whacked, and whoever hit him wasn't the guy they grabbed, because the person who hit him right in the jugular. Meaning, he could have blown his head off, if he had hit him right about there, but that was a bit too much. Right in the jugular, and the blood, and then he was gone, right? Now, no one should be shot, right? But, hey, we got that Second Amendment thing. No one seems to read it. What does the Second Amendment say? Doesn't mean that you get to AR-6, right? You can't have the AR-14. You can't have a Glock. It doesn't say that. What it says is that a state like, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, they can have their own militia, not National Guard, militia. And what that means, it can be privately owned. So back in the Union days, the 1890s to 1940s, all of those large, like Mr. Carnegie and Mr. Rockefeller, and even other ilks, they had these guys in black, and they were the first men in black. Jamie wanted me to tell you stories about the men in black. Well, the guys who used to assassinate political riffraff, because back in the day before 1950s and the commie scare of the Reds, we had Republicans, Democrats, we had Workers' Day, we had the Unionists, we had the Socialists, the Communists, and the Black Party, and the Women's Party. Even though the blacks and the women couldn't vote, they had a party because they could endure a population who could vote. So the United States, that's between the 1880s and 1950. That's when America was great again, because they actually had representation in Congress rather than all white men, right? And so all those different parties, they get a congressman, one or two or three, but that was enough that everyone had to get along. And to, I'm shitting in the shade. I either sit in the sun and get barbecued by the UV, or I sit here and the no-see-ums and mosquitoes kind of lit on me. Anyway, so, and normally they don't, it hasn't been raining, so they should be drying up, but they haven't. So there's something going on underground. And that was what happened to us back in September, right about now. We had that big Helene, and I call it the event because we didn't get any wind or rain, but what we did get was just fire hose water coming down our rivers. Noachukki, Watoga, all of the ones, and they're up in the mountains. Normally the water comes down. The water went up. Figure that. And the trees, they, because it rains and rains and rains and the water gets soft, and the big trees get blown and blown and blown, they fall over. Well, and didn't do that. They didn't even get snapped, right? Because they can either fall over or snap. But no, they were exploded out of the earth. And when you take 67 into Hampton, and there's this whole, if you're looking by the side of the lake, there's this whole hill that's all the way around that. And that's where the corporations want to build 6 800-room gambling casinos. Now, you're not supposed to build anything on a TVA lake, but they paid those guys off. And those were dry counties, but all of the pastors, the Methodists, the Baptists, the Catholics, everybody, instead of driving their old Toyota truck, they're all driving new Lincolns and new Expeditors and new Mercedes implementers, and it's just I just love me some Donald Trump, because at the end of every empire there is the hiatus where and now you really collapsed and went wrong here. You already gone past the point of no return, right? And then, but the inertia of the corruption and everything is like taking you still up. Now we have long passed that. About in '08, when the big economic collapse that George W. Because George W. and Dick were handed Billy Boy. He was like a Christian sacrificial lamb, and that everyone talked about his Willie and that girl and her handler, who took the semen-stained dress and put it in an evidence bag. So they had Billy Boy dead to rights, but he did that on purpose because he's he can't help himself. So, but what he did do was, when he came in there was maybe 600,000 people in federal penitentiary, maybe less, maybe 400,000. When he left, there was 6 million, and most of them were black people of color, anybody but white people. There were a few whites, but mostly that, right? And at that time, Hispanic folk were about 8% of America's population. Blacks were about 16, and yet they made 98% of the people males in prison. So I mean, I just love it. I just love it. And I keep saying, hey, this is all scripted. You know, back from our founding fathers. Just go watch the play or the movie Hamilton. You can see it's scripted right there. They're singing songs. They're doing dances. Hey, it's great, right? So, where are you from? Well, I have to say I'm from everywhere. My daddy was in the Air Force, so he was a traveling man, and that sperm was everywhere. And wherever, the corporations and General LeMay and what's his name, the guy who was the Secretary of Defense during LBJ days, McNamara. My daddy worked for those guys. And he got out. I didn't see. My dad was in a position where he never got out. He was active duty or inactive duty. Active duty, he wore his bird colonel outfit, and inactive duty, he wore a very nice Sears and Roebuck suit, right? So basically, Harlem, New York, right? That's where I grew up from babydom to about 7, and then my folks were out there in Long Island, and my grandma brought me up. So she had a place in New York, and she had a place in Long Island, and at 7, I went back to the Feral Weasel family that I came from, and luckily, I wasn't there in those very tender years when you can, be taken away psychically, emotionally, and you end up with PTSD. And that's kind of what everyone in the Western world, everyone in EU, they're still not over the 2 world wars. World War I, World War II, they were the same war. We just had a little intermission. When in the old days you used to go to the movies and they showed the first 2 reels and then they'd have an intermission, go get popcorn, soda, and come back, see the other ones. And anyway, that's where we are, right? We're right at the intermission, and I don't know how many of you guys are Star Trek fans, right? So there was Star Trek with Spock and good old, what's his name, Jimmy, and Scotty, and all the rest. And that was a microcosm. You know what a microcosm is, kids? Microcosm is a little teeny thing that represents everything else, right? So that was that ship, especially on the bridge. Had a Russian guy, Chinese guy, black woman, guy with pointed ears. I guess that's close to being transgendered, because no one knew what gender he was, so maybe, who knows. And Jimmy, Jimmy, total, what do they call those guys, who not so much a sociopath. You could maybe call Jimmy a sociopath, maybe, or psychopath is when you just kill people for the fun of it. Jimmy did it because, he's following the rules. I was ordered. They told me to do it. I was just following orders. Yeah, so, anyway. So, then, the hiatus, movies, then Next Generation, right? And then you had John Luke, real, whatever you call those guys. There's a word, not entrepreneur, but, guy who knows what cheese goes with what wine. That was John Luke. And then there was Riker. He was like a smarter version of Tit-Tit, right? And so, and then you had the Tin Man, and then the Psycho Girl who could read you, and that must have been great in sex. But anyway, that first episode, breaking out the Next Generation was Larry at Further Point or something like that. They're right on the edge of where they've never been before, just like going wherever they've never been before. And they go there, and there's already a Dollar General and a Walmart's and a Sam's already there. And so Star Trek loves these people and wants them part of the Federation. And so that was cool. So they basically go there and sign the papers and shake hands, and they're going to build the big Federation office building because they're great builders, right? And so they said, well, that's good. Here's some of these things we call replicators that you can really knock yourself out on. Well, we'll just keep giving this interesting technology and play with it because you're creative people. That's kind of what we did with the American Indians when we first showed up. We gave them stuff, and they made better use of it. Same with the slaves. Most of the stuff that was invented from 1776 up until now was invented by black people, and white people just stole it. And the best guy at that, there's two best guys. Back in the day, in the 1880s, there was good old Thomas Alva Edison. He was like, I think that Tommy Boy and Neon Husk are just the same thing. Somehow somebody flipped a switch and because they're both stupid and they both are totally psychosocial, cultural, criminals. And so it's all good. It's making America great again. Now, America ain't going nowhere, but America has already left the stage. And we just need, a few things like while the rest of the world is doing okay, third world is kind of having, stresses, but they always are because any place in Africa that has resources, there's a war there. Look at Sierra Leone, right? They have oil, gold, diamonds, rare earths, you name it, they got it. So that's why that war is going there. And it's their own generals, the guy who's in charge of the army and the guy who's in charge of the National Guard, having a war. And their people aren't dying. They aren't killing their people. They're just killing the 182 million people who live there because they want to get rid of them so they can have the stuff. And the people giving these clowns the weapons are the Americans, the English, the French, the Germans, the Dutch, the Russians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Vietnamese. They're all there getting their slice. And that's called the Federation, right? And I bet you dollars to donuts are going to move the United Nations and take it to Ashland. And that's why the orange turd wants it, right? I mean, and see, the real thing that most people don't know, NAFTA made Canada and Mexico and the United States and everybody like around them part of America, even Russia and even Ashland. Because we had this ice base, zebra there. I think it's still there. So anyway, you don't know anything because, you only take what's given. And remember, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensie Owl Bob, this guy telling you stories. That's all they are. Don't believe a word I say. This is all fake news, but you can check it out. That's the beauty of Wikipedia and Google. It'll tell you everything I talk about. It'll give you their point of view of it, which at least shows that it's kind of happening. And then you can go from there. That's what a historian would do. You look for your sources, you dig through them, and then you go further. That's what a real historian does, right? And then if you're an archivalist, like my friends, I was never anal attempt enough to be an archivalist. Good historian, I could dig up stuff, and I would use it, right? Because I was getting paid to find what was the skinny on anything. And that was one of my better, when I was the itinerant scholar between, well, I was kind of doing it in New York City, but more as an artist, I was the avant-garde itinerant scholar artist electrical wizard. That was, people call me Mr. Wizard or the Double Doctor, or any of the above, right? So how about some more likes? How about some subscribers? And guys, a fellow or sweetheart that said, I want to make a copy of your shows, go ahead. But instead of Tupperware party, have an Owl Bob party where everyone comes and you show the shows. You find the shows that you like and play them. And you find the ones that you really like, and you can edit them into something else. I'm all about being the bologna to your sandwich. I'm full of bologna. So anyway, there's still 4 people there. How much juice do I still have? Not much. I'm down to this one device, and I used to do screenshots of other stuff off of YouTube onto the show, and I can't do that anymore. And all the things that are happening to me because God, is helping me out here, my hip that needs, I can barely walk. Watch Mojo. Yeah, I like Mojo. One Global. David Hoffman. David Hoffman's pretty cool. He's part of my string. 80 years of James Walsh. So There's a lot of great stuff on YouTube, right? Just don't believe it. And I keep telling you, don't believe a word I say. Go check it out. Back in the day, like, 12, let's see, 2015. So what's that? 10 years, give or take? A little more, a little less. Uh, Back then, before Donnie. And I pretty much got rid of everything all I had was the school in this place. And I got rid of everything else and gave it to the poor because, that's what God said to do. When some rich guy asked Jesus, how do you get to heaven? And Jesus said, you know, give all your wealth to the poor. And I did. And I had been a social activist, since I was 15. So 1955, I was really involved, you know. So in 1955, my grandma and I used to go to walk down 195th Street and then walk down to the northern part of uh, the big park. Oh, and up there was kind of the black neighborhood. And over towards the west was Caribbean or what they would call Needle Park. And everything kind of down 195 was kind of like the Upper West Side, but it was not because it was on the east side. It was in the middle, really. Central Park, that's what it was called. And so when I was a little kid, my grandma would walk me all the way down there, and we'd go to where Balto was. That's a beautiful part of the park, and where the band shell was, and there'd always be someone acting something out, and we could just sit on the meadow. The meadow was like it was kind of a copy of the where in the Greeks, the Greeks had their Olympics up in Delphi, Greece, right? And the most important thing of the wasn't throwing the spear or running fast or any of that kind of stuff. The most important out of the Greek Olympics was theater. And there was this valley where these people would be at one side and the other people would be up this hill. You could stick about 20,000 people. And the person at the top, that's like, 2 miles from the stage, you could hear them. You could hear the people on the stage. You could, and they didn't have to scream. They could talk to us. The acoustics there were like magical. And I kind of knew that. And my wife and I, when we were traveling the first time through Europe on the Swedish Nickel, we basically were in Greece. And I was supposed to, hook up with my friend from seminary, and he had a girlfriend, and she was a nun, and they quit it, and because they were screwing around, and he was staying in our loft and taking care of the cats, and then they kind of went to Europe. This guy would always kind of copy. A lot of guys copy what I do. They don't do it very. It's like that scene out of, Annie Hall, and when he first meets Annie and he thinks she's insane, and they're doing lobsters in a boiling pot, and it's all of that and this and that and that and this, and he gets annoyed, but she's really great in bed, and she's really cute, and she's really smart, and but not smart enough to be smarter than him, and he take him to all the death movies, and then they break up because she's gotten smarter than him, and instead of dating him, and he's a short guy, and she's a tall girl, and the next person, she goes to Hollywood, and she hooks up with Paul Simon, but in the movie his name isn't Paul Simon. Anyway, so it's just that, right? And I see a lot of people, especially like John Boy, he does that. He tries to pretend he's me. To so much so, he's stolen all of my identification. But that's okay. I got it back. But it was a drag having to go through all that. And he had it. I left it. He threw me out one night, like at 3 a.m. I wasn't awake. And he was threatening me and go, and anyone who screams at you, and he didn't say, I'm going to kill you. But he had a hammer. He was either going to do some carpentry or... Anyway, so and that's John Boy, and he's still that way. I mean, he jumped in on the show yesterday, and you know, and again, I really care for the guy because he is so talented. God has given him so many gifts, and if you don't really utilize your gifts, you know, or do your best to utilize them, you may not. No one has an idea what God wants. Me, I got a little footstep ahead of it, most people, because I've already said, okay, I have not a clue. I am total moron. I'm just your lucky guy. So, here's the wheel. Take, the wheel from me and drive my car. And I am your doula. And kids, do you know what a doula is? It's that person who assists the midwife to bring life into this earth, right? And the midwife really doesn't do anything. Just kind of sits there, drinks tea, watches, doesn't even talk to the pregnant woman who's screaming and yelling. She's probably in another room playing solitaire, but she's ready to go. Doula does everything else. And doula is a slave to that life. Because if you go into the Greek, because back in the day of Jesus, nobody read Hebrew, please. The business language was Greek. So Jesus was talking Greek, and everybody was talking Greek, and basically, like the Torah. So there's, how many books of the Hebrew nation are there, right? How many liturgies? Come on. Anybody know? No? Nobody knows? 3. You know what they are? Torah, Tabla, Kabbalah, right? Now, when I was living in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, with the Hasid and Lubavitcher, over there near, off of 10th Street and ding, 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 Bedford, my landlord was a rabbi, and he owned all the properties, and he was in charge of everything, and he was in America, and he was the most powerful rabbi in America, and the other 2 Zionist kind of cowboys were in Israel, right? They were real estate guys, right? Whereas my rabbi, he was a true philosopher. He was like, his favorite was Spinoza, right? 16th century Jewish boy living in Sweden, in Stockholm. And one reason why everyone hates the Jews is, I love the Jews because, my rabbi put me in a Lubavitcher to be a rabbi. He says, the only guy I know who understands Spinoza and can read Greek, Hebrew, Latin, little Mesopotamian, and English pretty well. You're going to be my, so I was his scribe, right, for 6 years. So I am not anti-Semitic by any much, right? And I view one Jew at a time, right? Just like I view every human, one human at a time. I don't view anybody by their color, their gender, where they came from, none of the above. Now, I understand that because I am a psychosocial, cultural, forensic anthropologist, right? And what is that? Rabbi art kind of taught me to be one of those. And basically what that is, on the top of it, shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic anthropologist. On the bottom, you put alchemist, right? So what is shamanism? Not a religion. It's a understanding that everyone has their own viewpoint, their own bias, their own psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropological window of what they're seeing, how their world view, right? When you understand that, you can take all of that, right, through that spiritual nathos and plug it into the physical of alchemy, and you can make gold out of it. So you can make spiritual gold. That's what the manna that came from the sky and fed the Hebrew nation out there in the winterlands for 40 years, right? So whenever you kind of get what you want, it's because you're doing that. I see. Spinoza, was one of the best writers in all philosophy. Right. So he's a real Jew, and he is really smart. As a little kid, he was going someplace. He's going to be a head rabbi. So by the time he was 18, he was in that council, right? Meaning, so if you read Exodus or you read Deuteronomy, they go in big detail about how to make the house of the Lord and all these rooms and where you put the covenant and where you put this and the sacred rooms only like there's only the high hippie holy guy. He gets to go in there and he doesn't even talk to God. He just kind of sits there, right? And tries to listen. Then the other guys do the other peripherals, and then you have the Pharisees who are the lawyers, right? And Jesus said this. He said, listen, when you were made by the Elohim, and he doesn't say El, because El is singular for God, the one God, the uno mas, right? Elohim is the plural of gods. So we were made by a bunch of chuckleheads, deviant deities, and that's why we're so screwed up. We're going to make them in the image and likeness of us. Yeah. What do you think, Neon Husk? Yeah, we couldn't do it. Yeah. How about you, Tip Tip? So that's kind of what it was back there. Low battery. Yeah, I know that. Glows. So I'm going to keep going. Ooh, it's in the red zone. Don't have too much time. So this thing just kind of... Anyway, remember, get a hold of me at the dudeawake42 at Gmail, dudeawake42 at Gmail. Now, I'm not going to be going anywhere. I got no car, so I'm here in the deep green. It's supposed to be beautiful for as long as you can. Now, we're going to be right on this line where it's going to be like unbelievably perfect or 20 degrees below zero during the day and 40 degrees below zero military show. Ukraine just took another, so Ukraine's kind of kicking Russia's butt little by little. And all they're really doing is, bombing all their oil refineries and pipelines. So now the Russian people are waiting online for gas. They have no gas to put in the tanks. And it's truly amazing. The Ukrainians have captured, since the beginning of the war, more than 800% more artillery, tanks, armored personnel carriers than they had when Ukraine started. They had none of that. But the Russians ran out of gas, ran away. The Ukrainians come, fill it up. They have those tanks. They have those artillery. They know how to fix them. They got the spare parts. So they now have almost more tanks than the Russians have. And Russians can't fly. The majority of their drones run on a lawnmower engine, right? Instead of a rechargeable battery, they run on a lawnmower engine. So they're not even they're gonna run out of gas to put into the drones. And they only move about 130 miles an hour. And so, what Russia did when they went into Poland. Now, if this is what a smart general like me would have done. Will do. We'll say, okay. So, because the Russians have gone into Poland during this whole war, but just by, quarter mile here, before they snuck back into Ukraine, right? And basically, the Polish and NATO would make a written saying, hey, don't do that. And they kept doing it a lot. And this time, they sent them like deep into Poland, right? So if they had munitions on us, they could have killed a lot of Polish people. And that would have started war with NATO. And so the Polish Air Force responded and shot them all down. And then they said, okay, so they bring up Particle 4, right? So in that way, so everyone got together, and they're figuring out what kind of response they're going to have. And the dutiful kind of legal response would be to, okay, this is what we're going to do. So our radars are like seeing everything in Ukraine, just so we can see you coming. Plus, we also kind of can see almost to the horizon where you guys are in Russia. So next time you send stuff our way, we're going to send our aircraft in to shoot down those things in Ukraine, not waiting for them to show up in Poland. So that means from this point on, Poland and NATO can say, hey, as soon as we see anything coming into Ukraine, we're going to take our Air Force into Ukraine and shoot your shit down, which will... So the Ukrainians have been really good at making sure, Russia's sending every day 600-700 drones, which each one of those drones costs $50,000. They're like not, super cheap. And so they're sending 20 $20 million worth of stuff. And basically, everyone's underground. So maybe five, at most five. And so they hit 10 cities, maybe five innocent civilians die, right? And the same thing is like for the military, right? So Ukraine done, Russia has almost unlimited people, but now, I mean, they've lost 1,000,000 soldiers in the last 4 years. Ukraine has lost about 60,000. So that's like, what is that? It's like one for every 100. Those are not sustainable things. So Ukraine can actually, and their technologies, and they're building it at home. They're not, getting the North Koreans so they're right at a place where if this keeps going the way it is, Ukraine's going to be able to again move into Russia and take over land. And they can take over that part that Russia took in 2014. That's on the coast there. And that big bridge is there. And that the reason why they could blow that big bridge up anytime they friggin' wanted to. But they're keeping it from being blown up by, that's the thing, if they want to jump into the middle of Russia, they just take that bridge over there, hit I-40 and zing, they're like, cut Russia in half. I love it, right? So what's Russia going to do? Start a nuclear war? Good luck with that. So that's where we're standing. Now you look over the Middle East, whatever, So I don't know how many of you guys read the Bible, right? So in the Bible, especially the Old Testament, they don't talk about, and Jesus doesn't talk about Jews being the Israelites. No. God only starts talking about the Hebrew tribes being Israel when he sends Moses in to get them out of, because if basically Israel had stayed in Egypt, they would have become Egyptians, because this happens to the Hebrew tribes all the time. They're badasses. God loves us. We're the number one. And God kind of got their back until, okay, I'm giving here's a lamb, God, and here's some, broccoli. That's my offering. You got my back? Like David. Why did David, this great hero, it was a little guy, was just wearing boxer shorts and flip-flops, and he takes out the Persian's biggest, baddest, giant fighter guy, like with a sling. Well, that wasn't the first time that David had that sling in his hand. He was like kicking butt with a sling. How many people are watching? Ooh, about 6. I'm going to go for a few more minutes before this thing dies. Anyway, because it doesn't like going up after. I have to get out nicely. But anyway, long story short, God says to David, go on, you're taking care of the sheep. I'll watch out for them. You go down to where your brothers are. And brothers were older, and Dad gave them all the money, so they had nice, military wear and horses, etc. Anyway, so the Hebrews are there, the king's there. I forgot, maybe Saul or one of those guys. And David shows up and said, hey, I'm ready. And what? You should be up there with the sheep. No, I'm going to take out the big guy. Oh, you nuts? You have no army? Put some armor on. No. I got it. I got this. God told me to go do this. So David goes out there. He's got his little sling. He looks down. God said, you only need one stone, right? Because God's, David's swinging around and letting it go, but it's all under, God's remote control. So anyway, what does David do? Does he pick up one stone like God told him to do? No. He picks up 3 stones, because David knows he's really good with that sling. He knows he can kill this guy, even without God's help, but he ignores God's wishes and takes. So he is hubris. He believes more in his ability than God's. That's called a false god. The 10 Commandments, number 1, no false gods. And what, I'm going to leave you with this. Whatchamacallit is, fornication is not sex. It's the false god. So I'm leaving, I just gave you a whole bunch of stuff. I hope you got it. Are your great, oh, my grandma loved me like a rock. My parents did too. And they did the best thing. They stuck me with Grandma for 7 years so I wouldn't become a wild weasel like my brothers and sisters. And then when I showed up, and I was quiet, sitting over there because I was just studying my family. To me, they were like experiment, and because I'm always the scientist, and so I'm always a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist. My boss he wanted me to be able to do anything, so he gave me a degree in all of those things because I'm going to put you in these studies, and you're going to make the protocols, and the people who are there, they're going to get upset, and they want to know who the heck you are and what kind of what's your gravitas. So here's a degree in this, here's a degree. I had like psycho, I had a psychology, social, I had a MSW, psychosocial cultural, I had a historical. And, forensic, I got a degree in forensic science and anthropologist. So I was a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist, right? And then he, lit incense and candles and made me a shaman, right? So this guy was a bomb. He came from the ISIS Foundation. Go look them up. You're way more interesting than Theosophical Society. But I was part of that too. But anyway, I gotta go because I only got moments left. I love you guys. So I'll be more charged up tomorrow. I'm not going nowhere. I had to do a bunch of, because I don't have wheels and I have all these appointments coming up next week. I had to see how they could get me here or get me there or whatever. So anyway, love you guys. Come on. There you go. See. Are you sure you want to stop streaming?